beating my chest this far out, you know?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, that's where he is. Because he's always here, ready to speak to everyone that will listen and join the 11th. You know, so... Yeah, it's
fantastic.
I remember having to find that voice, and when I first played him, and Chris Abbott made me wait like for 4 years to join the roster. I think at the time he was just like no. And then he waited like the next year I'm like, Chris, man, I've been doing this a little while, you know, and he's like, no. And then like I think the third year in he was like, no, I got something for you.
All right.
But you gotta wait. You gotta be patient, and it's like okay.
So now you're the king of the pirates, right? I mean, Luffy wasn't able to go off the Shanks at first, right?
Yeah.
That's
so,
fantastic.
Yeah. So that was, it was cool. And so that then he finally gave me the character, and the character I didn't even know what he was going to sound like at that point. He's wearing a cloak and hood and all this kind of stuff, and then afterwards when he throws the cloak off. Now I'm like, I've got to be this bigger version because I was way down here. And I'm not sure exactly what this would be.
Right.
And, and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, now. And then they told me later, no, he's big, man. He's got to be like big and animated.
All right.
Like he's throwing his arms around. And he's like, and I'm like, really? So I'm like, I'm with the Pride Troopers and no bigger. The Pride Troopers and no bigger. Here! And it's like, yes, that's him. And it's like, okay.
That's awesome.
So that's how we worked that out.
That's fantastic, and you obviously enjoyed that one.
Yeah. Well, he's the one I mostly, when I come to the conventions, that's the one I act because it's interesting. I've gotten two characters that are from completely different. They're both anime characters, but Admiral Kizaru and Top is the leader of the Pride Troopers, which is this super galactic elite fighting force, in the 11th universe. So they're both military men.
Yes.
They're on, in the opposite ends of the spectrum, so to speak. Kizaru is so powerful that he's just extra laid back, really lightning calm guy, and then you've got this completely different, way over the top, character until he's God mode, of course. And then it's different. But and I'm like, I know it's made me think like, okay, I need to have like these Uncle Sam type photos. Like I want you, one Kizaru and one, Top.
That's
I haven't seen that yet, so I'm hoping if you artists out there, think about that.
Fantastic. Anyone here have any questions for Ray? Oh, let's go first. You first.
Number 50 in the back. Now I'm just.
Knowing how big My Hero Academia ended up being, was that anticipating for you at all? Like,
for My Hero?
Yeah.
I had no clue how big it was, honestly. Once I had become a part of it, that character was really cool because, first of all, he's a literal Navy SEAL. And that's like, how much more literal can you get than like All Might than Selkie? You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, there was no anticipation in terms of, because I didn't know. I really didn't know. It was one of those things that once I had become a part of the property, it was like later. All of that stuff came later. I found out, this is the #1 anime in the world. And like I said earlier, I had a reporter call me, and I didn't even know how they got my number. So, they called me, and then it was like, how does it feel to be a part of the #1 anime in the world? And it's just like, So then I had to instantly do as much research as I could, nervously, trying not to hang up on them in the process. So yeah. But no, there was no anticipation on that part. So I'm sorry I didn't have more for you on that.
The green vest.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
This person asked Ray what kind of supporting characters he likes to act.
Okay, so kind of like more or less a supporting character. You're talking like
I feel like, to me personally, they kind of still show sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking, honestly. Azuma was, he was their big bad. I mean, at that point, he was, I think he did more damage than any other bad guy, really. There was, he had just the overall, his overall attitude, and that was me doing my best Kevin Conroy, interpretation.
I just watched it like a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah. He was well, and I've been fortunate in that way. I've been able to play a lot of grounded villains. Like he was probably my most grounded villain because he even says like I have better things to do than play with cats or children. It's like he's just not. he's just not joking around with anybody, you know. And then he gets to Titania and he's like loving the battle, and you know, just his old. Then all of a sudden he changes a little, like, oh, okay, she can put up a fight, you know. And so yeah, I think he would be that character. He would fit that the most. He was just a fun character to play, and I try to bring. I was never a theater performer. I have done some stage work, but I've never was a you know, big time theater performer. But I always appreciated the way voice actors in the '90s and the '80s and '90s were. You know, they brought a certain performance to it that felt real.
Yeah,
it's like, you know, even though, so like some of the characters would even talk over each other like you do in real life.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? We'll be talking, and then, you know, he's trying to say something, I'm trying to say something at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, that's a realistic feel to the cartoon, you know, that you don't really get anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have your line, I have my line, your line, my line. And it's like, but I want you to really believe the character. And I want you to feel the character. So a lot of times I'll yell that out. They'll be like, oh, man, that was great. And I'm like, bring it back old school anime, man. You know, old school cartoons, man. You know, and that's what I miss in animation now. And so I try to be that, you know. Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for your question.
This person asked Ray about a very specific anime and about his favorite line in that anime.
Any line that,
Favorite line?
well, like, this is a cheat, but any line they give me for top is great. You know, it's great. Because all of his lines there, you know, it's like, you know, every...
It's not like if you could do I am going to do the final flash.
You know, yeah, it's like all of his lines are really cool. Even when he just says Hakai. It's just, you know, it all sounds powerful. You know what I mean? I mean, from his introduction to Goku, you know, in the Tournament of Power to everything else, like he just has, you could tell he is well spoken. So when he says something, it matters. He's not just talking. And so, okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciated that. You heard it first. So yeah.
Thank you. Absolutely. Any other questions?
This person asked if Ray's going to be reprising any of his roles
I
from
hope
Dragon
so.
Ball.
I hope so. I have absolutely zero control over that. It's a question as to whether they're going to. I'm sure if I do not remember her name, but the voice, the Japanese voice for Goku, if she remains able to do the voice because she's very old now, I'm pretty sure that they would most likely bring the characters back because they have done video games and other things. You know, they had the mobile game that came out a few years back. They've got other things in the works that are coming out, you know, and with that being the case, I think it'd be safe to say that at some point, you know, it would happen. But like you, I'm hoping because I would love to reprise the character in that way, you know, and to see more Dragon Ball. I mean, it's like, you know, it's just the greatest action, you know, animated series ever.
There you go. Can we just quick, are there any particular studios that you'd love to work with? Is that the question? Okay. Good.
Yeah. I would, well, I mean, I want to do,
And this
I'm
is being recorded.
yes. Yes. Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, really. I mean, any of them, Warner Brothers,
Right,
Disney.
right.
I mean, I would love to do. I mean, I'm a big fan of oh my God, Jim Cummings, the mighty Jim Cummings. Like he is like most of my childhood. Okay, I mean, my goodness, you know what I mean? He's done them all, you know, and so, and then he doesn't even like to do Kyle really because, you know, that's like evil poo. And so
he did Tigger as well.
he does Tigger, yeah, and so that's my point. It's like he does a lot of, and he's the voice of Pete, you know, and the Mickey Mouse stuff. Yes, yeah. Jeremy Irons lost his voice halfway through, and he sang the rest of that song. Yes, he did. Yeah, and I can't hear it any different now until I actually heard the difference. And so yeah, that's a Lion King thing for those that don't know. Jeremy Irons lost his voice
Oh, I didn't know that.
doing halfway through that song.
Yeah,
Be
yeah.
Prepared is the song,
Right.
and Jim Cummings was able to match it and sang the remainder of the song.
Oh, my goodness.
So yes, but unless you know, you just don't know. And so
Right.
yeah, Jim Cummings has been around a long time. And so yes, I would love to do some because I imitate Pete and things like that, you know, for my daughter. And you know, yeah, I'd love to do anything Disney or Warner Brothers or any of those things, you know. yeah, I would definitely love to do those characters. But being that I've been a part of the Dragon Ball thing, Cartoon Network has heard a lot of me.
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Any other questions?
So if the character that you are in My Hero was casted to someone else, and any of the other characters were tossed to you, which one would you choose out of all of them if you weren't able to voice the one that you did?
I think you'd make a killer Endeavor.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I like, well, my voice, my natural speaking voice is similar to Chris Sabat. So like, you know, it would be cool to do like something All Might-ish, you know. You know, if he would have graciously allowed me to do one, you know, at least a mobile game or something, you know,
That'd be great.
it would be cool. You know, I'd do my best version. It would basically be me imitating Chris. It'd be all it is, because that's All Might in many ways is him. You know, as far as his overall delivery and speaking, because it's unreal how big his voice is.
Yeah.
Like he's not a big guy, but his voice is huge. And so, you know, he walks in and he's one of the only people I know personally whose voice is as big as mine. You know what I mean? And yeah, he's like he's a powerhouse of a voice. So yeah, I would love to, you know, do some work with that character. So yeah.
So 2 more questions.
Okay.
The last one will be future projects
Okay.
we might know about. The one before that would be, we talked a little earlier about some of your past, right? Your life, being right. How did any of that sort of prepare you for this world that you're living in terms of performance?
Well, the combination of everything.
Yeah.
I used to be, I was a jack of all trades, and so it was a lot of things that I have done. I was called to ministry at 7. I was saved at 17, so I was called to ministry around about a year or 2 after that, and then served in that capacity for 16 years with Reasonable Service Ministries, and so that was I did that. That helps a lot in terms of. It helped a lot in terms of, I guess, like you talked about the psychology of a thing, you know, before, and then and on the back end, you know, outside of the anime. Particularly, just meeting people, talking to people. Yeah, you know, you get used to working with people, and that was a really great thing for me. And then on top of that, I worked in the collections world, and I was a salesman, and so the collections world kind of gave me that isolation. Yeah, being on the phone one-on-one with a customer, you know, and having to deal with this stuff, and you're trying to collect the money, but at the same time you're being a counselor and a friend, and you know, and you know, you wear a lot of hats as a collector. So yeah, it's a crazy business. And then the thing more though than the collection side, the sales side. I worked in sales for Sears for like a couple of years, about 3 years, and that I learned a lot doing that. Maybe 3, maybe 4 years, and yeah, man, it's a sales is a dirty business, man. Oh, it's great if you're a people person, but it's also a really rough business, man. Oh, yeah. And you gotta know your stuff. You gotta know people. You gotta know how to talk to people. You gotta
persuade.
Yeah, you know, and and it's been really good for me in this career because, you know, you get used to dealing with, again, I'm a people person, so I gravitate towards these, you know, these professions, and so that made doing this job all the more difficult in a lot of ways too, because this is the most isolated I've ever been. Yeah, exactly. Doing anything. Right. Like it took me 2 years to get used to working almost alone. Like it's voice acting is not. Go back and listen to Tom Hanks talk about being Woody. Okay, and just the overall experience of that. You know, he's not playing across. He's not looking at, you know, Buzz Lightyear across the way. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's like it's not that way. You know, you're in a room. It's you, typically 2 other people. You know, if not one. You know, you have the audio director and the engineer. Yeah, the engineer generally they don't talk in most cases. You know, so I try to, you know, I challenge myself to make them talk. You know, so I try to get them involved and stuff, and they're really great people. They make me look great, and so I appreciate them profusely. You know, immensely. And so anyway, it's very isolated. But those are my best. Those usually my most fun moments outside of the conventions,
Right.
because that's when I get to meet everybody. That's when I get to meet the other actors.
Yeah.
Meet the production team. In this case, meet the fans that make this thing so great. So being a part of it. So being in that booth.
Thanks for tuning in to part 2 of our interview with renowned voice actor Ray Hurd. Hit the subscribe button to receive a notification when we release part 3. Until then, Mickey Tate and Zombie Scotty wish you all the best. Bye-bye.